and to be able to create something and know how to master a subject and to, build something that can last. That's really important. And I'm feeling like because young people, this is back in 2010, imagine now, have this idea that everything comes quick and easy because you can click, click, click and things come to you, that everything in life should be that way, that we're becoming alienated from the human brain and how the human brain operates, because the human brain requires time. If you know how the human brain operates, we have what are called neural pathways. And every time you repeat something, a neural pathway is created and strengthened and strengthened and strengthened. It's why we get addicted to things, but it's also why we develop skill. So if I'm sitting there shooting free throws day in and day out and day out, my brain is wiring it, it's learning it, it's learning that motor skill, that hand mind thing, and it's getting better and better and better at it. It takes time, it takes repetition to build those pathways. And I explain in Mastery that you reach the proverbial 10,000 hours, which some people dispute nowadays. So it's just a number. That's not a fact. You ever spent so long learning something that there's so many pathways. It's like this amazing inner landscape with all these connections going on in your brain. And now you can be creative. Now you can come up with things that nobody's ever thought of. You can play chess on a higher level. You can be Pele on soccer or Lionel Messi making passes that no one had ever seen before because you're not having to think, right? You don't have to think anymore. Your body just does what it wants. Imagine 20,000 hours, which is possible, which people sometimes attain in certain fields. You're almost like a genius. You're almost like superhuman, right? If you're someone who's so locked into the internet, to getting things instantly, you can't get past 100 hours, let alone 10,000. You're never going to develop skill, and you're going to find life really, really difficult for you. So I wrote the book because I was actually deeply worried that we were losing a part of how the human brain operates as something elemental part of our wisdom.
The interesting through line between that and the subject matter we've discussed in Power and Seduction is that by learning to master something, you build that sense of self-esteem and confidence that we're looking for, to be good at the former topics mentioned. But on the topic of mastery, the first chapter in this book, and really the first question a lot of people ask, is this question about finding your passion. And I've always had a difficult relationship with this question because it sometimes assumes that there's one of them and that you have to go in search of it somewhere. In the first chapter of your book, you talk about discovering your life task. Um, why is it important? Is it the same thing? Is finding your passion and finding your life task the same thing?
No, I just recorded this yesterday on my own podcast. I went on a rant about how it's not about passion. It's not about finding your passion. I actually don't like that word passion. It kind of makes me cringe because if you think about it, passion, to succeed at anything requires time and effort and boredom and tedium. So let's just say a simple example. You're learning to play the piano. When you first sit down at the piano, you have to play these really insipid tunes. It's so boring. You have to learn, I forget what they call it, finger exercises and scales. On any instrument, you have to learn scales, etc. It's tedious, man. If you think it's got to be passion, forget it. You're never going to get far. The thrill comes after a year of playing the piano, and you get better at it, better and better. And now it starts becoming fun. Then 10 years, it's more fun. Then 20 years, it's fantastic. You know, I'm not trying to name drop here, but the other night I had dinner with Stevie Wonder. It was the most amazing thing I ever seen. He's absolute. I wish I had interviewed him for my book. Speaking of genius, and he's blind, obviously. Everybody knows. But I was watching him. He performed for us. We were there with a group of friends at his recording studio. I was watching him play the piano, and he's blind, right? And he's improvising, and it's just absolutely brilliant and amazing. And as I'm seeing this, I'm thinking, I could see the thousands of hours he's been putting in, just touching these keyboards and knowing where the keys are. It was just mind blowing how amazing it was. That is the power that the human brain naturally has through hours and hours and hours of effort. That's how it works. So, you know, he didn't get there because it was passion. He got there because he was a child prodigy. At the age of 11, he was signed to a contract with Motown Records, right? He was playing that as he was a kid, hour after hour after hour after hour. He had a love for the piano, but it wasn't like every time he sat down, it had to be passionate about it. He had the patience to put up with all of the boring stuff. Okay. So you want to discover what you were meant to, what you have a connection to, what you have a love for, right? When you're a child, hopefully, or when you're 18 or 19 or 20, that's the best time to discover it. All right. You decide, and it doesn't have to be something highfalutin or worth, like intellectual. You could be great with your hands. You could be great with your body. You could be great with images and visuals. You could be great with words. You could be great in many different areas. Okay? They're all equal. They're all great. You as a child are naturally, so there's a book I always recommend for people called The Five Frames of Mind by Howard Gardner, in which he talks about the five forms of intelligence that humans have. Each brain by genetically is wired in one direction or the other. You want to know that, you want to feel it inside of you. It's like a feeling. It's not an intellectual thing. You feel when you're doing sports that it's good. It's a natural thing. It's what I'm meant for. When you're involved with words like I was when I was 8 years old, it felt right. It felt like a natural fit. I have to follow this path. When you're 3 or 4 years old and it's music like Stevie Wonder and you're hearing this in your head, wow, that's it for me, right? Okay? You feel it, you feel this connection. Right now you fast forward to when you're 18 or 19 years old and you're having to make a career choice. Okay, so I call that your 20s, the most important phase of your life. That's going to make or break you in some way. If you spend your 20s trying to learn skill in something that connects to you deeply, right? Then things are going to happen to you by the time you reach 30. You've discovered your life's task. It may not be something so specific. For me, it was writing and words, but I didn't know what to write. I tried novels, I tried journalism, I tried theater, I tried screenwriting. But you know it gives you a direction, and you try and you try and try, and you know that's what you were meant for, that's what you were destined for. You feel connected to it, you feel a love for it. And so when it comes time to do the tedious stuff, you're able to do it because you know in the end it'll pay rewards. You'll get better and better at it. And the connection is so deep that to not do it would be miserable. What can we do to get people to develop more interest and passion around the craft of making things as opposed to all the other stuff that comes later on, the attention, the money, the success? And I talk a lot about this in Mastery. I have a chapter in it. And in the past, we humans would make things with our hands. That's what defined us. If you study the brain, you understand that the relationship between the mind and the hand is one of the most important things in our development. There's all these valuable connections between the two. So when you're making something with your hands, the brain is engaging in a very deep level because it's something very primitive, very primal in our nature, right? Because for millions of years, hundreds of thousands of years, we were like chipping away at stone or pieces of wood and making things. And slowly, slowly, our brain developed. Okay, so we're an animal that makes things. They used to define humans as not Homo sapiens, but Homo faber, which means the animal that makes things. You know, I mean, there are birds that make nests and things, but we are builders. We actually build things that are incredible. Some of them are not physical, some of them are immaterial. A book is not something you build, but it is like a building, right? When I write a book that's so complex with so many things, I think of it as a cathedral that I'm laying brick by brick by brick by brick. In my mind, I am building something, all right? I want you to have that metaphor, okay? So you're not literally building a ship. You're not literally a mason. You're not literally making bricks to go on a cathedral. You're not literally making something out of wood or steel, but you're making something still. You're making a business of whatever sort. You're creating a social movement, which is something that you're building. You're making a film or a book, which is something that you're building. Whatever it is, you could be doing a family. You're building a family, okay? So use that metaphor, right, for anything that you do, because it goes deeply into our spirit. It's something we can identify with because we are the creature that loves to make things. And so your passion is that love of actually making something. It's not the end result. It's not the attention. It's not the glory. It's not all the Instagram hits you're going to get. It's the process of building something slowly and surely with an image in your mind of what it's going to look like and reaching that goal step by step. You love the process. You love the physicality, even though it's not physical, of building something, okay? It makes you patient. It gives you an image. It gives you a goal. And in order to make something beautiful, in order to make something last, like a cathedral, like a Viking ship, I remember 14 years ago, I was in Oslo, Norway, visiting my good old friend David Roebuck, God rest his soul. And he took me to the Viking Museum in Oslo. Oh my God, it was fantastic. It was so beautiful to see those ships that they constructed. I was just in awe, just total things of beauty and such craftsmanship, right? You're not building a Viking ship, but you're taking pride in the craftsmanship element. Now, there is a whole movement in America right now about actually going back and building things, which is a beautiful thing. It's a great thing, on farms, or literally making your own food, or building things yourself. Or our good friend Brent Underwood, who went back to a ghost town. He's building everything himself. That is incredibly noble. I'm very envious of people who do that. So that's one aspect. But even if you're not building anything material, you're building something, you're a craftsman, and it must be made beautifully with care and attention, slowly, and everything must fit. And so I remember I interviewed Paul Graham for Mastery. You all know who Paul Graham is, I don't have to explain. He started Y Combinator, among other things. And he was the one who said that in computing, there is a very deep notion of craftsmanship. Like you're creating, this is all like passé now with AI, but you're creating a beautiful piece of code, right? And there was a sense of the software he was creating was like a painting, was like a Viking ship. It was made beautifully. And that element of craftsmanship in his mind, having that ideal, was what allowed him to become very successful. So that I want you to take going ahead with you, that whatever you're doing in any venture of any sort, whether it's material or whether it's not material, that you are building something, and that you are a craftsman, and that you're building with care, attention to detail, and it's the building that you love, not the results.
It's easy to be lazy if you don't have any emotional connection to what you're involved in. I give the example that I have personally is when I lived in France, I had spent years learning French in the university, but it never really sunk in because I wasn't paying deep attention to it. It didn't mean so much to me. But there I was in Paris. I had to struggle. I had to survive. I had to get a job. I had to get a girlfriend. And suddenly, because I had to do it, because it was important to me, because it was necessary, because it was what I call death ground, either learn French or get the hell out, you're not going to be able to survive. I learned I wasn't lazy. So your laziness is something that has to do with you. You're not connected to something deep enough. You don't feel the necessity. You don't feel the devil at your heels. You don't feel the fact that you could very well die tomorrow that will impel you to get something done. There's no necessity behind it. And the human animal, the way we were created, is when we feel pressure, we feel the necessity to get things done. We can move mountains, and we had plenty of examples of that in history. But when that pressure, almost like a barometric pressure, releases, and we don't feel the need to get something done, we can become incredibly lazy because there's no necessity. So you have to create necessity in your life. You have to create the need to get things done. You have to give yourself deadlines. You have to remind yourself that tomorrow everything could go kaput. COVID could come back. You could be fired. You could die. You could have an illness. Give yourselves a sense of urgency that I need to get things done quickly. And then when it comes to making decisions, a lot of time what afflicts people is this idea of, I'm not ready. I'm not ready to start my own business. I'm not ready to quit this job. I'm not ready to break up with my relationship, which is toxic or whatever. Give me another few months. I've got to prepare myself. I want you to get this idea that you are ready, that you have to try and do things before you think you are ready, right? If you think, well, I'm not prepared to start this business. I need to go back to business school. I need to learn more and more. Shut up and do it. Just jump in the water. You will learn more by starting before you think you are ready. By making that decision, your brain will kick into action. You will discover all this energy that you had that you didn't think you had. So make the decision before you think you're ready is the other thing. The final thing I would say is laziness is not all that bad. I must confess that I have moments of laziness. If I was always intense, if I was always on trying to write my books, I would probably be dead by now. And actually, I almost did die because of that. And I've learned over the years to always kind of incorporate moments, an hour or so, where I waste the hell out of time. I'm looking on sports websites, etc. I'm surfing for this or that. I'm reading things that aren't really important. It's important sometimes to take downtime and let your brain unload and not be so focused and on. So it depends on if laziness is a chronic habit or whether you build a little bit of laziness in your day-to-day affairs and give yourself some leisure time, some time to relax. So that's how I would answer that particular question.
Somebody asked, how can you stop wasting time if you're not living the life that you want to? Well, I would kind of flip that question around and go, the answer is to live the life that you want to, and then you won't be wasting time. So wasting time, there's a bit of a prejudice against it. Wasting time in some ways can have a purpose behind it. I frequently waste time in the sense that I let my mind wander. I read things that really have nothing to do with my work for that particular day. I happen to like sports a lot, and I'm reading about the inside things going on in basketball or baseball, etc. Things that basically are wasting time, But it's okay because A, it relaxes you, and we need relax from all the tension. But B, things sometimes infiltrate your brain from these somewhat irrelevant things that you wasted your time, and they actually enrich the soil and your thoughts, and they contribute something. But the point is, I lead a life where I do have a sense of purpose, where I do know what I'm supposed to be doing. So it's okay to waste time. The problem is when you're wasting time, don't know what your life is about, and things that you're doing to waste time cannot possibly enrich your brain. So what I would like you to think about is you can't be on tense every moment. You do have to let your mind wander. But if you do it with certain things, they can actually benefit you in some way. So instead of wasting time with online porn or video games or things like that, although sometimes video games might have a positive impact. I don't know. I don't play very many of them, so I don't know. But you want to be finding things that kind of waste time, but that can have something productive behind it, So you take up a game, for instance. You play chess. I once tried to pick up the Asian game of Go, which is very difficult. It's a real brain drain for me because I was writing the war book. I bought a pool table, and I tried to teach myself pool. So you play pool, you learn chess, you learn backgammon, you learn Go, this Asian game. You take up an activity like that where it's kind of relaxing because you don't have to focus on it, you kind of waste time, but also it does something else to you. So I bought a pool table. I'm not saying a lot of people, I bought the cheapest pool table. It was only $500. It was like from an old bar. It had like beer stains on it, and it was the kind that you put quarters in, but it fit in my garage. So it wasn't a fancy pool table, but I got this when I was writing the war book because every afternoon I would waste time playing pool, but it was focusing and learning how to develop some skill on that. It took my mind away from my book but it taught me some things about strategy. The other thing I learned about myself in this wasting time was whenever I would be brilliant at pool when I was by myself, but when someone would come over and they wanted to play against me and compete, I wasn't very good. I learned that I don't handle pressure so well in games sometimes. Anyway, there can be productive time wasters, things where you're developing some kind of skill, and it's not so intense where you don't feel like you're always focusing so hard, but it enriches your brain. So I would really recommend figuring those kinds of things out. The other thing is to find out what your life is for, to figure out what your career path is, and then you can waste time doing whatever you want. You can play video games up the wazoo, it's fine. It's okay to do that several hours a day. You don't feel like you're wasting your time. What you feel like is, I'm relaxing my brain. When I'm finished, I'm going to go back to my studies of engineering, of science, of whatever it is. Because what happens, the depressing thing of wasting your time is you waste your time and you go, oh, now what am I going to do? Oh, I guess I'm going to watch this thing on television now. It starts becoming a habit where you're wasting more and more time. But if you waste time in a framework of, I've got an hour, I'm going to just waste it, I don't care what, then I get back to when I skill the things I'm learning. It doesn't feel so bad. So that's my advice to you.
I mean, we can't send all of our kids to therapists, and also, it's like there's too much talking going on in this culture. No, but sometimes you just got to get off your ass and you got to act. You got to do things in this world, and that's the best therapy in the world. So I make the analogy in my book and in some of my talks that I see the power and the life out there in our work world as a game. It is a power game, and I frame it that way. And you're maneuvering. You're constantly maneuvering. It's this fluid game that you're playing where the parameters nobody really sets. The rules aren't very clear cut, but there are certain laws of power that you can operate to get ahead. It's the most amazing game you could ever play, and you should enjoy it and you should have fun. Well, let's start talking about things like that like life is a game. Get out there and be active. When it comes to dating, stop all this bullshit with your phone.
Yes.
Go out to bars, go to supermarkets, learn how to pick up on women, learn how to get over your fears and actually interact with them. So start acting and stop talking and stop overanalyzing things, but actually act in the world. That's, to me, the greatest therapy in the world. This is back in the 80s when people were first calling it a syndrome. And so much of the therapy was a talking therapy, right? And giving them these certain ideas about, let's talk about it, let's figure it out. He came up with these action strategies. He literally had you go out and do things that were your biggest fear. Because OCD is all about fear, right? So if you're afraid of germs, go out and rub your hand in some dirt or whatever. He had them do this over time. He took brain scans, and their brains were literally changing. The brain was rewiring itself through these action strategies. So when you take action, your brain changes, it adapts. That's how the human brain is. But if you're always internal, if you're just talking about things, none of that stuff is going on because it's not how our brains are wired.